This is a
Hey there, beautiful people. Welcome to FANTI, podcast for all those complex and complicado conversations about the gray areas in our lives. I am Tre'vell Anderson.
And I am Jarrett Hill. Welcome back to the FANTI. I feel like it's been a long time since we've had like a traditional episode, like digging into conversations around the world. Obviously, we've had a lot of conversation around the swim episode last week, and coming up on the show this week, we're getting into the hot topics. A lot of the different things that we missed while we were away that we would have ordinarily had an A segment on or plugged into a FANTI, we're going to be getting into this week. But first, we wanted to get into our brand new book that is about 2 weeks away from coming out, called Historically Black Phrases, and wanting to jump into one of the conversations that we have in the book to give y'all a little bit of a preview of what we're doing in the book. And so let's kind of jump into that. Tre'vell, we're talking about an essay that we have that is about the influence of the Black church on us and our culture and how that has, really kind of permeated the world. Mm-hmm. We have an essay called Let the Church Say Amen. And we should say, we're going to read a bit of an excerpt from this. This was a hard chapter for us to write. Like, it was something that we kind of went back and forth on about how we wanted to incorporate it. How do you, as we get into this essay, how do you remember this coming? I think we were in Las Vegas, like writing like the last draft of this before it came out, before we had to turn it in, wanting to talk about how church and faith have kind of impacted Black language and then largely, more broadly, popular culture. Thoughts on this before I jump into the essay?
Well, I was going to say, I don't think I remembered it that same way. You started saying that and I started flipping through the book like, what essay is he talking about? I said, let me read this thing real quick.
It was a year ago. I remember being in my hotel room and us being on computers writing in Las Vegas, because this essay was the last essay that we turned in.
So we perhaps, a little peek behind the curtain. So we split up the essays in the book. There are about 6 essays in the book, and each essay kind of takes on, a different aspect of this Black language conversation. And you and I, like you just said, wanted to highlight, the role of the Black church. And I remember us, you took, I think you took this one and you made the first pass at the edit. And so the final product is a combination of your writing and my writing. And I think the pairing together, because for me, there were certain things that I wanted to talk about in terms of how I see that relationship manifest. And I think you had some other things. And so this is a good example of the blending of how both of us come to this conversation topic of, the influence of the Black church, especially on, and we should say the Black church. And when we say that, we mean it, in a broader, spiritual sense, largely talking about the Christian church, right? But spirituality shows up in so many different ways for us as, nignogs and whatnot. And so, I think all of that is captured in here. But you wanted to read a piece for the people?
Well, it starts, I'll read the beginning of it. It says, Black culture and the Black church are inextricably linked. Like melting ice cubes, distinguishing one's influence on broader pop culture from the others is almost impossible. The first person thanked in award show acceptance speeches, especially by Black folks, is God. Crosses and Jesus pendants hang around the necks of celebrities and everyday folk, often encrusted in diamonds, or the diamond's more economical cousin, the cubic zirconia. From the ways we celebrate and get on one accord, let the church say amen, to how we mourn or complain. Trouble don't last always. Another reference that's actually in the book. It says the Black American experience, while never a monolith, is one peppered with religion or at the very least spirituality. In doing research for this book, I remember looking up, finding data that talks about, I believe it's 95% of Black folks say that they believe in God or a higher power. Whether or not they go to church is a different conversation. But in this essay, we kind of unpack that a little bit and talk with an expert, and I think a linguist that talks about even if you weren't in church, how church has an influence in your life because of the people that might have raised you or the places that you grew up in and different things like that.
I would just like to say that was not a great advertisement for the audiobook that we also recorded. It's had we we read it for the audiobook with a lot more spirit, a lot more energy. You know.
Did I not give you? Listen, we are both coming off of a Beyonce weekend. Listen, it's early in the morning after a 3-day weekend with Beyonce, and both of us came into the session this morning like, "Hey, girl, how you doing?" Mm-hmm.
I was here early. I'm ready because I'm a professional.
I zoomed in right in time, on time. Woo.
And you did. But what I was going to say is that, you know, one of the things that that you just mentioned, Dr. Ann H. Charity Hudley is the main linguist that we interview for the book. And she talks about how, you know, everybody knows, you know, God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. You know, just because of how, you know, that has seeped through our culture beyond the church house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we really wanted to reflect there. So, you know, that is, you know, a quick sneak peek. Okay, for those of the FANTI fam who are here, I think we'll also post this on the social medias. Okay, historically black phrase from I Ain't One of Your Little Friends to who all gonna be there. Okay, it's a fabulous dictionary of these phrases we've all heard and loved and learned throughout our journey. It is our opportunity to kind of, you know, put some respect on our tongue. Amen. And amen. HistoricalBlackPhrases.com, available for pre-order right now. It comes out September 19th. Okay.
Just quickly before we move on, I think my favorite two in the book are from my family. Casket sharp is one of my favorite phrases. My grandfather used to always reference people as being casket sharp if they looked good, if they had on a gray outfit. And then my aunt is actually one of the people who her phrase is like what part of what started this book is the devil is a liar or the devil is a lie. And the example that we use in the book is actually my aunt. And like, every time I see that one or casket sharp, I'm like, oh, it reminds me of literally specific people in my family that I have like deep connection with those phrases. So
you so sentimental. I love that.
Again, historicallyblackphrases.com for checking out the book. When we come back,
love that for you too.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, why we're so exhausted after a Beyonce weekend and digging into the hot topics of the last few weeks while we've been away. Don't go anywhere. More FANTI is coming up.
I'm Jesse Thorne. Bullseye is celebrating 50 years of hip-hop by bringing you an entire month of brand new interviews with rappers. That means Jeezy.
I put my pain in the music.
Angie Stone.
You know, hip hops. We called them hops back then.
Master P.
Music is what's gonna open the doors for us, but whatever we come up with after this, it's gonna be bigger.
Plus, Chica, Saba, even the greatest of them all, Rakim. That's this September. Open up that podcast app, type in Bullseye, and hit subscribe. You're not going to want to miss any of this.
Welcome back to FANTI. We are digging into the hot topics and the things that we were doing while we were away. Tre'vell and I were away for about a month, preparing for coming back. Also learning to swim, giving the producers time to put together the film that they put out for y'all last week. That got a lot of great feedback. I saw Swish put into our Slack channel one of the pieces of commentary that we got back from folks that we saw from Nidra88 on Instagram said, I'm a big fan of this show and I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I think this is the best episode of a podcast I've ever heard. The drama and the knowledge, the content. I mean, even breaking down the swim instructor's ad-libs, this is the top quality content. So if y'all haven't checked out the last episode of the swim extravaganza and learning how to swim, that has been really fantastic. Tre'vell, have you swam again since we did all this?
Not since last week, but I got a few more on the agenda to come before the summer.
More lessons?
Yes, more lessons before the summer goes bye-bye. So, you know, I'll be, getting my Ariel on shortly. I mean, you lucky I can't sing because I was going, slide into one of them songs. Under the sea. Under the sea.
And there, my luck just ran out, apparently. So,
Anyway.
okay. So while we were away, a lot of different things happened in the world. I think the Lizzo lawsuit happened in the first couple of what?
Can I interrupt you real quick? Before we get to the Lizzo, just because we just did the historically black phrases moment, one of the things that I would like to start with for this recap of stuff that happened over the break that I think is tethered to our discussion about historically black phrases, how black folks do what we do, right, is the whole Jamie Foxx, anti-Semitism brouhaha, and how, he said something that many black folks have heard said in regards to, fake friends in our community, right? That apparently we all now know that exact same, phrase means something very different outside of the cookout. And I just think that goes to show the many different ways that how we talk as black folks, right, especially, is unique in its own way, and it has its own systems and structures and mores that could be, right, in direct opposition to other cultures, communities, and their, linguistic practices.
Yeah, number one, I know that someone shouted out "unique" when you said that. I saw this Jamie Foxx moment happening, and I was really irritated with Jennifer Aniston, and felt like...
What did you say her name was?
Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, it sounded like you said Anderson.
That would be you. Tre'vell Anderson. No, Jennifer Aniston. I was irritated with Jennifer Aniston in this moment because her response to it is what made it such a big thing. I thought it was a great example of this is something that black folks say that means this thing, and y'all hear black folks saying this and you receive it as something that it's not. For those of you that don't know, Jamie Foxx said, reference they killed Jesus in a text, in a tweet or in a post, and people responded to that as it being anti-Semitic, and it was this doesn't have anything to do with Jewish people. This doesn't have anything to do with anti-Semitism. This doesn't have anything to do with any of that. And you heard it that way and received it and were offended by it in that way, but that was about you and it wasn't about Jamie Foxx, right? And Jennifer Aniston then following up with a tweet saying I didn't mean any anti-Semitism by reposting this, and Jamie Foxx having to come out and make a statement about it. It was frustrating to me, to be quite honest, to see this white woman essentially make this black man have to correct his own language of using language in a phrase that we often use.
Well,
it was frustrating to me, and I know that other people have started responding to her saying that, but it was that was never what this was intended to be, and that frustrated me.
Well, I do want to be clear. Jennifer Aniston responded the way she responded because there was already a dust up.
Well, yes.
Right? And I just want to be clear that, people were talking about it and outraged and all of that other stuff before she, perhaps added more to the headline fodder of it all. But, this is a side effect of our cross-cultural exchange experiment that we are living through. We are living through a case study. Okay, that is one of the things I recently realized.
Oh my God.
We are living through a modern. We are the visual. We are the visual. Okay.
Well played. Well played.
Because guess what? In 5 to 10 to 15 years, if not further, they're going to be reviewing this moment in time.
My God.
And my God, today. Ooh, will it be horrible? Ooh, we will look back on this time and say, oh my, how I got over. Because, oh Lord.
Listen.
Okay, I'm done. let's keep going.
No, that was definitely one of those moments where I was like, oh, this is actually a very historically black phrases adjacent kind of moment. I was saying that the Lizzo story broke, I think right after we left for break. There was like this lawsuit breaking, accusing Lizzo of some pretty heinous things. I think the story that really kind of permeated culture the most was about like fat phobia and all this other stuff, but like, and like fat phobic language or like body image stuff and positivity. But it was really a lot more serious things that were in that charge that was alarming, but also like we've seen now Lizzo has countersued. The Lizzo story was an interesting one to see happen.
Yeah, so 3 of Lizzo's former dancers accused her of sexual harassment and creating a hostile work environment. They also alleged that she pressured one of them to touch a nude performer at an Amsterdam club, and subjected the group to an excruciating audition, quote unquote, after leveling false accusation that they were drinking on the job. The dancers accused Lizzo of calling attention to one dancer's weight gain and later berating, then firing that dancer after she recorded a meeting because of a health condition. The suit filed in Los Angeles Superior Court also accuses the captain of Lizzo's dance team of proselytizing to other performers and deriding those who had premarital sex while sharing lewd sexual fantasies, simulating oral sex, and publicly discussing the virginity of one of the plaintiffs.
So
that is a quick little write-up from NBC News, FYI.
So what was interesting to me about this was like none of the stuff that they said she had done, or like none of the things I was hearing like them talking about, like did I just like think sounded completely outrageous as impossible. Like Lizzo has always had a pretty sexualized like image. She has a lot of like sexualization of things on stage, and so like the idea of that wasn't hard for me to believe. It was something that I remember thinking like, oh, I know that certain people will have the same experience and will be in the same moment and have different experiences of it, right? And like that was one of the things that was kind of kicking through my mind, and wondering like what would come out of this case, right? As we hear more and more details as this, you know, seemingly kind of moves through the process. My feelings about this were kind of all over the place with Lizzo.
I mean, I think that, as other folks have said, right, some of the behavior that is lodged in here is, you know, the behavior that is often accepted in the industry, right? And many people chalk it up to just being, you know, part of the game. Right, you have meetings at strip clubs. You
meet in hotel rooms.
If you are in hotel, I wouldn't go in that far, but a lot of people chalk that up to the game as like that's just how this industry works and that's just what happens. But you know, it's also not great that, you know, folks are feeling like, you know, somehow that they're not able to opt in or opt out of that type of stuff. And it seems, and these people are saying that they received like, you know, blowback or retaliation, right? For, you know, shirking some of those types of things that have come to be accepted. It's really wild to also just like look at this from a broader, like, quote unquote cancel culture, quote unquote crisis PR management perspective, because like, you know, Lizzo disappeared for a little minute while this story was out, and she's slowly reemerging, you know, as particularly on social media, and it'll be interesting to see particularly the allegations around, you know, which you mentioned, which is a lot of the headlines focused on the allegations of fat phobia, which in focusing on said allegations of fat phobia, they were being fat phobic. But because there are other things, right, in that the suit alleges. The the initial, I think 3 dancers, they did an interview on TMZ, so you do with that what you will. Yeah. But you do with that what you will.
Not the sound.
You do with that what you will. But there have also been other dancers who, while they are not part of this suit, have, confirmed or affirmed some of these, statements and allegations, and the overall sentiment that this suit puts forth. And so, we'll see what this means for her. If it means anything,
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like Lizzo will probably end up being fined after this, but go ahead.
I'm sure she will be fine. I hope that she learns from this that, as I forget who said this in our community, who first said this to me, but like a lot of the issues that went down here appear to be behavior that is typically acceptable at the second location of the night or the third location of the night, right? Not we went to dinner, right? Because this isn't behavior like at dinner, right? This is after hours behavior, right? The more lewd stuff, and so it's like maybe we can go to dinner as a team and build that community, but when y'all go to the after hours spot, I'm going home because I'm the boss and I'm the CEO.
Or as she has on her Instagram, the CEO.
Well, hold on now.
I am, for anyone who's like a vintage Oprah watcher, like when you said second location, it kind of brought that back. Like if Michael Brewer, who was one of the friends of the show and friends, one of your Morehouse siblings, if I were to call Michael Brewer right now and ask like, what is the one lesson we learned from the Oprah show? It is from that white man telling us never allow them to take you to the second location. If you get kidnapped, like if they take you to the second location, you're in their control. That just flooded all that back for me.
Okay.
The Lizzo story broke right as we went away. The other story that broke right as we went away was this situation in Montgomery. While we were in Alabama in Birmingham, the Montgomery Brawl, I don't know what you're calling it, but like the day that a folding chair became really like a piece of national iconography, happened, and we were in Birmingham at our NABJ conference and kind of like starting to see this happen on social media. I thoroughly enjoyed everything about this story. I also thought it was interesting how it became such a saga over the course of the next couple of weeks, hearing from the different people, seeing the different angles of the video, learning the details of the story, and then really rooting for the Black folks even more after hearing about the white folks who were not allowing the boat to come into the dock, learning that port, that waterway was a port where enslaved people were being brought to be sold. It was a very interesting story to see unfold as it did.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, I particularly enjoyed the social media chatter, the Twitter chatter. X chatter. Is that?
Are we gonna call it X?
Is that a thing now?
I'm not calling it X.
On my other show, we have to say at formerly known as Twitter, which is ugh. But, new, quote unquote news. Anyway.
I was going to say, we're not a news show, so.
We're right. So
we will be calling it the Tweeter.
The Tweeter. But just like seeing the memes and whatnot, I mean, that was the wonderful part. I'm glad. I think the latest update is that, like, all of the white people involved were charged with their, horrible behavior and whatnot. And I think the majority of the Black folks who were involved were, not charged. Now, that man who hit that person with the chair. Now, I know they have digitally altered the Martin Luther King Memorial in DC so that he is holding that white folding chair. And people have sold out Amazon shops, buying their own foldable white chair, going to Walmart and practicing their swings with white chairs.
Oh, God.
But, baby, I'm just saying that while we might love it on the culture side, it might not end up too well for him for knocking that person with the chair. The chair feels like an escalation. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, the social media will make you an icon, but federal prison or state prison might be a part of his future as well. So there's that.
Or at least community service, something.
Well, listen, okay. I will say that it was one of the things that made me really appreciate Twitter, even though like it's kind of dying on the vine now. Like, are you using Twitter still?
I mean, I'm on there.
Like regularly?
I mean, I'm on there. I don't use much social media regularly anymore, I feel like. Unless it's work related.
Yeah, the Twitter piece of it has been interesting to me because like I find myself using Twitter less and less, and I miss it. Like Twitter has been a lot of fun for me over the years, and Twitter changed my life in a lot of ways. But also like it doesn't feel the same anymore. But it was a moment of like, oh, I'm so excited that Twitter is something that still exists. I also appreciated the push notifications from Spill. Even though I haven't been using the app, so I can't speak to that. Speaking of federal and state prisons, I think we had another 2 indictments of Donald Trump while we were away, which thoroughly entertaining. I don't want to dig too deep into that, but like I was definitely glued to the breaking news coverage of of the Atlanta indictment and his arrest and all that kind of stuff. I feel like you have been covering that story quite a bit over on the WAD. I have to ad nauseum at this point.
I have. I hate it. 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 And I said this on that show, so I don't mind repeating it here. I hate having to talk about him every single god-dag-nabbit day. I hate it. But this is quote-unquote unprecedented times. Okay? This has never happened before.
Child, we've been in unprecedented times.
And so we have to cover it like with the fine-tooth nail comb. Fine-tooth comb. Anyway.
You almost said fine-tooth gnome, and then you said...
nail comb.
We'll leave that alone.
Anyway...
I love this for you having to do all the political coverage nowadays, as opposed to when we met, when that was my job and my day to day.
I mean, you still was glued to the breaking news card. You watch MSNBC or CNN?
MSNBC, like, come on. This has been one of those moments where I'm really...
He said, I'm a progressive bitch. Don't disrespect me.
No, I actually do watch CNN occasionally. That really touched your spirit, didn't it?
Sorry, that just really tickled me.
So one of the things that I don't feel like I get to do while we're at work is like watch things that I want to watch as opposed to things I feel like I have to watch. And I feel like I spent the majority of break time watching a bunch of television, watching films, watching TV. I don't know how you spent your time away. Oh, well, I know a little bit about it, but like I've been binging Queen Sugar, getting caught up on the last seasons that I missed. Did you watch The Red, White, and the Royal Blue on the Amazons?
No, I did not watch those white people. I
watched that and I was like, oh, this is a lot better than I expected it to be. It was a really enjoyable movie.
I heard it was good.
It is. It's really good. I enjoyed it. Queen Sugar, I think, is one of the best television shows ever created. And I think what I love about that show the most is the way they depict Black people loving each other. And like, I think they do such a beautiful job of that on that show. I just think anybody who hasn't watched Queen Sugar or hasn't finished it, like, get your life, get into it. I'm also into like the sexy thriller, and there were 2 shows that I've binged over the break as well. Fatal Seduction on Netflix. Now, I gotta say, this show I felt very FANTI about watching. Fatal Seduction is a South African drama that gained a lot of popularity here in the States. I felt mixed about it because it is a South African drama that just got dropped into like that has really gotten popular in America. And it feels like strike related scabbery, if you will, because like it was not an American show. It's not SAG-AFTRA or union writers. And like, it felt like they kind of like pushed a show out that they could get away with. That's how it felt to me, but I also thoroughly enjoyed it. So I felt bad. What is all this face?
Okay. I mean, this show probably been done for a little minute.
Oh no, it was definitely done before, and it had already come out before it like really took off and had a lot of popularity here. Yeah, it was. That's why it felt like that. It was like, oh, I feel like
you just think they're doing some algorithmic, some algorithmic playing.
Absolutely,
is what you're saying. Gotcha.
Absolutely, yes, because people aren't able to promote things that are coming out. But also, it was really, really fantastic and an amazing drama that you think you understand what's happening and you do not. Thoroughly enjoyed that. What did you do with your time away?
Well, in terms of watching stuff, I mean, I'm always watching stuff. You the one who get overwhelmed with, what be popping out, and so I watched Queen Sugar as it was on television, as it was coming out every week.
Yes.
But I agree. Queen Sugar is chef's kiss. Not perfect, to be clear, but really well done. But yeah, so I've just been, continuing, Big Brother is the big moment right now. I mean, I'm always episodes behind on Big Brother because my God, today, but
because they put out 20 a week, like
three a week, and I'm typically just like an episode or two behind, but I'm not watching the live feeds or all of that. But shout out to the Big Brother family. We know y'all out there. Oh, and then in general, what did I do? I mean, I did a little rest, but I was doing work on other stuff. We
6.
The life we live is a busy one.
You said I get overwhelmed with television while we're in season, and like I have decided that like when I'm guesting on other shows, like we're doing Pop Culture Happy Hour and stuff like that, like you usually end up having to watch like a series or a movie or go screen something or whatever. And like that was something that I had gone to go screen a film for a Pop Culture Happy Hour episode, but wasn't able to get into the screening in time. Like there was like a parking situation, all kinds of different stuff, and I wasn't able to go. And I remember thinking like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like watching television and film like all feels like works for me so much nowadays that like I love to watch things when I don't have to talk about them. But like being able to watch Queen Sugar late, nobody's asking me what I think about season 5 or 6 about Queen Sugar, and so I don't have to like go into the details of it. That's why I tend to watch a lot of stuff when I'm on break. I've been trying to get myself to do yoga in the morning. Like I do like a 15-minute, like 20-minute yoga thing in the morning. I just want to shout out Ariana Elizabeth on YouTube. She is a Black woman who has a yoga studio that has been like doing a lot of really, really great work with yoga and Pilates on YouTube. So go check out Ariana Elizabeth. That's something else I've been doing. You mentioned getting rest, like a little bit of rest, but I know that you were in email, you were in meetings, you were working as well. I know I got a little bit of rest in the midst of working.
Well, somebody got to keep the wheels turning.
That's why we have Palmyra and Laura and Ann. You make it seem like it was just you here. Shout out to Palmyra and Ann and Laura for all of the holding down of things while we were away. Those are the main things that happened while away that I wanted to touch on. Did you have anything else before we go?
No, our book comes out September 19th.
Okay. If y'all understood how much of the week is dedicated to getting ready for this book, you would understand. You would get it.
Listen, okay.
We want to know what y'all missed, what we missed that happened while we were away that y'all want our feedback on. You can hit us up on the social media at #FantiFam or using our Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok at FanTi Podcast. Coming up, we've got some feedback from y'all on a few different things that have happened while we're away, and we'll be right back.
Somewhere in an alternate universe where Hollywood is smarter.
And the Emmy nominees for Outstanding Comedy Series are Jetpackula, Airport Marriott, Thruple, Dear America, We've Seen You Naked, and Allah in the Family.
In our stupid universe, you can't see any of these shows, but you can listen to them on Dead Pilot Society, the podcast that brings you hilarious comedy pilots that the networks and streamers bought but never made. Journey to the alternate television universe of Dead Pilot Society on MaximumFun.org.
Welcome back, beautiful people. Okay, we are going to get into some listener feedback. We've got an email here that also ties into a hot topic since we've been gone.
That's not necessary. Remember, you said you knew you couldn't sing.
I can't breathe for the first time.
Remember?
I'm normal and yeah. So we've got an email here.
White woman of color, Kelly Clarkson.
Well, listen, okay, shout out. I was trying to see, over the summer, I wanted to go to her residency in Vegas, because that's a singing white woman. But I could not make it. Anyway, okay, we have an email here from Sterling with the subject line, "Make it make sense." Y'all see this mess? All I will say is, Tre'vell, you were right. Quote, "Stay your behind out of the Pride feature." After listening to you mention it on the show, I read the interview Shuti Gatwa gave, wanting to give the brother the benefit of the doubt. After all, he's the new and first Black Doctor Who. Quick aside from me, this is a response to the conversation that I had, that we had actually about Shuti Gatwa, and I think the episode was called "Is Pride for Not Queer People?" Or something like that. So this is in response to that story, and a recent development in that story. Okay, so Sterling continues. As I read it, it disappointed me because it was clear he was dodging the point of the whole article while declaring the need for privacy in his personal life. Gay, queer, bi, whatever. If you're interesting and talented, people want to know your story. They want to see themselves in you. You got the gig, boo. Take up space. Then again, as you mentioned, it could be agents and publicists driving these decisions to tease and delay obvious truths as a means to make publicity, but I don't get it. Pride is when you be you. I'm done, but I saw this, and I'm sure you have as well, but I had to say something. And Sterling attached a photo, a screenshot from The Advocate magazine that says sex education actor Shuti Gatwa comes out as queer. So Shuti is the cover star of, I believe it was Elle UK or something like that. And in that story, he recounts a time being at Pride and seeing another who he assumed to be queer, Rwandan.
I think it's Rwandan. Yeah.
Yes, Rwandan. And how he was like, he thought he was the only queer Rwandan, and he saw this other woman, and like it was, powerful for him to see that. And so that in effect is the quote unquote coming out, right? That has, because he's put language, right, to his identity, which he was not interested in doing or did not do in the British Vogue piece that came out during Pride, which is to Sterling's letter. And so, I had seen this information, Sterling, and nevertheless, we persist.
You felt a lot about it, apparently. I will just say to Sterling, the best way to make sure that your letter gets read is starting off with, all I will say is, Tre'vell, you were right. Your letter's going to get read in the show. Tre'vell's going to put it into the show.
Well, I look at the emails. If you wanted to look at the emails, you could put them in.
Well, I saw this email, and I saw, all I will say is, Tre'vell, you were right. And I was like, oh.
And you deleted
Tre'vell
it.
will put this into I was like,
you
this is
deleted
clearly
it.
some bullshit. Exactly. I was like, these are about to be some lies.
You said fake news.
Fake. Absolutely. Fake news. Yeah. So no. Shout out to Shuti for coming out, I guess. Good for him. I think. Oh, and also we had a coming out from Wayne Brady while we were away.
Yeah.
As pansexual, which listening to the read, they made reference to some of the tweets that were coming out around it, and they were like, Wayne Brady being pansexual is the ultimate like yes and being an improv person, and I was like, oh, that's That's amazing. I love that for Wayne Brady.
Very that.
All right, it is now time for us to get into our dishonorable mentions. These are the stories or people that caught our attention this week that deserve a call out, either for their good or for their stupid. Tre'vell, you want to get started?
I just had 2 quick little notes. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Tennessee State University. They are the first historically black college or university to create a Division I hockey program. So, last week we had black people will swim, and this week we got black people will hockey. Okay? Now look at that.
I knew you were going to say will hockey. I knew that. I knew it.
Because what else do you say? Black people will
play hockey. Well, I just knew hockey as a verb was coming. I just felt that in my spirit. Yeah.
Historically black phrases available for pre-order right now. Anyway,
my God.
And then you mentioned this already, but we have just crossed the burning sands of the Renaissance, and I just want to say, wow, what a time to be alive. When I talked about earlier of us living through a case study, the reason why it's such an interesting case study is because while we are having the unprecedented foolishness, right, that we are navigating sociopolitically, socioculturally, the girls are eating. We are eating socioculturally. You know what I mean? Like, even for the white girls, are eating in this moment. Taylor Swift, right?
Yes.
I don't even like that girl, but I can say eating.
Yeah.
Okay? We are living at such a paradoxically, diametrically complex and complicado-y time.
Mm-hmm.
Because while all of that is happening, Beyonce is out here just showing what possibilities look like. Just showing what greatness can be. And I often think that, like, the experiences that we have witnessing Beyonce be Beyonce has to be what we have heard of, right, with, folks witnessing Michael moonwalk for the first time. Folks witnessing Prince with his ass out on stage. Wow, for the first time. Come on. I'm just like, ooh. I could go on and on and on. But baby, listen. If you can find your way to a Renaissance concert before it's over, I know she's been recording it and it will be on DVD or streaming, in due time. I get it.
We don't know that for sure.
Valid point. But to be in the room, the great songwriter once said, in the room where it happens, okay? Okay? To be in the room. Transformative.
Indeed.
Indeed. Transformative. That's all I got.
I want to give a shout out and honorable mention to my bestie who gifted me with a ticket to go, Nicole Liggins, who's been here before. She came to town to go to the show, and we went. And after the show was over, I couldn't leave. Like, I found myself just kind of staring at the stage, needing to have a moment. Like, wow, that just happened. That show just happened. This moment just happened. We were all there. We all saw it. The lock screen photo on my phone is now of just the stage after the show was over. And I found myself trying to leave, but being I know as soon as I turn around and walk away, I'm never going to see this again. This moment will be over. And I was I just wanted to live in it for a little bit longer. 'Cause Beyonce is not going to give you an encore. Once she comes off that stage, she's done. Right? And
oh, absolutely. Because also she's been there for 3 hours.
All right. I gave you 2 hours and 40 minutes. I don't know what else you need. Right? She's I gave you this whole album.
Right.
And a bunch of hits. I gave you 18 looks.
The microphone is on.
Now, I should say, because you went on which nights?
I went on the first night and I went on her birthday.
Okay. So I went on night 2. There were 3 nights here in Los Angeles. I was there on night 2. You were there night 1 and night 3. Mm-hmm. I want to say for the energy mute moment, because Beyonce is one of my honorable mentions here as well. Mm-hmm. The mute moment, In person, it was very quiet. There were a couple of Banshees who were just like, that shouted, right? Including the man sitting directly in front of me. But if you look on my Instagram video, I recorded it.
I would have bopped him in his fucking head.
We were like in the stadium seating, like in the raised seating, and I wanted to kick him down the aisles, but like the Lord is still working on me. So I didn't. But he was like, if you watch my video, you hear everybody on mute and it goes quiet. And then you hear like the quiet swell and you hear, yeah! And it's him. And I was like,
oh my God.
Motherfucker. I was irritated, but I'm also like, it's not that serious. It's just a concert. So shout out to Beyonce, the Renaissance concert, the tour has been incredible. I look forward to whatever she's going to do with this archive of fashion that she has built just from this tour. I feel like it's going to be in a museum somewhere, like for you to be able to see it all at some point. It is going to set up her grandchildren for wealth. It is an extraordinary collection. So shout out to Beyonce and just the amazingness of the Renaissance, this show. I also want to give a shout out to a couple of other folks. My friend Yolo Akili, who runs Beam, which is the Black emotional and mental health collective. They have a new podcast called Black-Healing-Remixed. And you can get it wherever you get your podcast, but it is all about mental health from the perspective of Blackness and healing. And you can go check that out. Again, it is called Black-Healing-Remixed. If you're into conversations around mental health and the ways that we think about it, and also how it can impact so much of our culture and our work, please go check out Black-Healing-Remixed. I want to give a shout out to Victoria Monet for this new album. This was
on my mama, on my hood, I stay fly. Oh, on my mama. Isn't that in the book?
It is in the book. You can pull it up in the index. I think it's on blank because it wasn't just specifically for your mama. It was for, you can put it on anything. But Victoria Monet, this new album, Jaguar 2, is fantastic. And like, it has pulled me into like a lot of her other music. I feel like my favorite, are you going to show us? Go ahead. Put it closer to the camera.
Just for the people who are watching on the YouTubes, you know, I just showed the entry.
I've been thoroughly enjoying Victoria Monet. And also, right before we went away for break, Chica came out with an album called Samson, the Album. I know Chica has been a very controversial figure on the Black Twitters and in the world, but her new album, Samson, the Album, is fantastic.
I didn't even know she had a new album, and I like her.
Yeah, it came out at the end of July. It is really, really fantastic work, and I'm really, really into it. I want to give a shout out to Amber Abundance, who's been on this show before. Amber is a friend of mine, and she put together an event you got a lot of shout outs today. I do. I mean, we were gone for 5 weeks, or 4 weeks or 3 weeks or however long it's been. But Amber put together a fantastic evening where she was playing music in the Salt Eaters bookstore here in Los Angeles, playing music from The Color Purple. And it was just a really beautiful experience to have with many Black queer people talking about the queerness of The Color Purple and the music, but also about Quincy Jones and the producing of this music. I always forget that Quincy Jones as a composer. I just always think of him as like a producer. But like as you listen to the vinyls of The Color Purple, you hear the orchestration and you hear all of the beautiful music that he produced and created. And so I just want to give a shout out to Amber Abundance for that event. All right, now it is time for
Black history is happening every day. So for this week's Black History is Happening Every Day, we're going to keep it on the swimming tip of last week and tell you about Textured Waves. Textured Waves is an all-Black woman-led surf collective dedicated to promoting diversity and inclusion in surf lineups internationally. Founded in 2019 by friends and surf experts Chelsea Woody, Danielle Black Lyons, and Martina Duran, the org aims to normalize normalize Black women not only surfing, but creating a sisterhood amongst Black women surfers, along with partnering with sports brands and planning local events in the surfing community. Textured Waves hosts an annual retreat in Waikiki, where dozens of Black women from around the world join the founders for a day of immersive surf lessons and culture. What's so funny?
You're so gay.
Am I?
Like, because you called it Waikiki as opposed to Waikiki. You really emphasized the kiki.
Now, the listeners can only hear my facial expression, whereas the YouTubers can see.
We can feel it.
My facial expression. But if somebody don't get Jarrett up out my face, if you would like to learn more about Textured Waves, please check them out on Instagram for more information. Okay, at Textured Waves. Shout out to them and the work that they are doing. Before we get out of here, again, historically Black phrases from I Ain't One of Your Little Friends to Who All Gonna Be There, okay? Available for pre-order right now. We are doing a launch event in Los Angeles, so if you're in the Los Angeles area, stay tuned. It will be on September 19th here locally, but stay tuned to our socials so that you can get all the information about getting tickets to that if you would like to be there in person. Okay, you can also check out We See Each Other, a Black trans journey through TV and film, available wherever you get wonderful books. Also on audiobook. Oh, there's an audiobook. There will be an audiobook for Historically Black Phrases as well, read by Jarrett and I. You know what I'm saying?
I think the audiobook is going to be a lot more fun than I ever expected to be. Like, as it was one of the most fun parts of this process, and I think that people are going to enjoy it in a way that I wasn't sure how an audiobook would work for a book like this. But like sitting there and reading it and hearing it and doing that whole process was just incredibly cool. And I think people are going to really enjoy it. So make sure you go check that out. As we're plugging the various different things, I don't think we're going to be doing anything in Waikiki. But hopefully we'll have things happening in cities near you so that you can join us. Hopefully we're working on some different things to be able to meet you all in person and do some book events. Again, I just wanted another Why Kiki reference because that's hysterical to me.
We noticed because that whole sentence thing had no purpose. We noticed.
I don't know what you mean. I just wanted to make sure we represented that part of the listenership. If you are watching us on YouTube and you have not checked out the other seasons of the podcast, you can go do that wherever you listen to podcasts. Type in fantipodcast.com and you can go check out all of the past episodes, or you can check it out on whatever streaming platforms you listen to Slayworthy Audio. If you have a comment or suggestion about this week's show, we are at Fanti Podcast on the Instagrams, on the Twitters, and on X and on the TikTok. You can use the hashtag FantiFam to jump into the convo with us, and you can email us to fanti@maximumfun.org.
Yes, and again, we told y'all last week about our swimming journey. If you would like to see the bonus content footage, okay?
Oh, yes.
Put together by the one and only Laura Swisher and Palmira Muniz and Anne-Marie Huber, okay? You gotta become a Maximum Fun member in order to get access to that, all right? That's at maximumfun.org/join, where you can do that. As always, our music is brought to you by the one and only Corisi, or aw.ece, wherever you get wonderful music. Our graphics are by Ashley Wynn and the folks over at Moon House Creative. Our editor is Anne-Marie Huber, and our producer is Palmira Muniz. Oh, that was horrible.
Our senior producer is Laura Swisher. This is a production of Maximum Fun.